What is going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is Dog Talk with your host, Holden. Glad to be back with you guys. We are back up and running on YouTube. If you guys are watching on YouTube, really appreciate you guys being here. It's been a long weekend. A lot of football is in. I'm going to take the headphones off because when I'm recording by myself, all I need to hear is that little bit of intro. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll see that and why we're doing that. But anyways, glad to have you guys here. Glad to be back up and running on YouTube. If you guys are listening on podcast, make sure you check the description and click that little link there, and you can go to the YouTube channel if you guys want to. I'd appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel and like the video. All that does, again, is just build everything. Just like you guys listening on podcast as well. Make sure you guys give us that 5-star review. Really appreciate that. Again, all it does is boost the show. Subscribe. Tell your friends about it. I appreciate it. That's usually the easiest way to get the word out, is just by word of mouth. I can share it just as much as I want on Instagram, which we're on now, on Twitter, which is mainly what we use. But you guys telling everybody about it, all that does is help us out in the end. And that's where we are, on Twitter. Let me get this pulled up here for you guys on YouTube at least. I've got to get all my stuff figured out here. On Twitter, you see it in the corner there, at DogTalk20. Would appreciate you guys, again, if you want to follow us there as well. On Instagram, again, all of this is in the links of the description. Click that little link tree link. Click it. It'll take you to a few different podcast links, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, which is what most people are listening on. Take you to the YouTube channel, which we're on. Talked about that. And now as well as Instagram. So, again, glad to have you guys here. What a great game this past weekend against Oregon. We finally got the ball rolling, and in a big way, too. I mean that with no joke in any way. I mean, Georgia got the ball rolling from the beginning, and they did not quit through the rest of the game. And we're going to talk about it. This is what we're doing in this one. All we're doing is breaking down this game, going through the recap of the Georgia-Oregon game. I don't know why, but the last episode, I did not put any of my picks up. I put it up on Instagram as well as on Twitter after it, but I forgot completely to go through the big games of the weekend outside of Georgia-Oregon. Completely forgot to do that, but I did put that post up afterwards, so I will do that. We'll run through those once we finish this up, and did pretty good on the weekend. Unfortunately fell to one of those, but we'll get to that later in the episode, as well as looking at all of the games like we were talking about, looking at these other big games, because some of them matter, some of them don't. Some teams look really good. Some teams didn't look nearly as good as we thought they would, so we're going to get to it. But without further ado, let's do it. Jumping right into it here. Georgia, Oregon. This is the main one that we care about and that we're going to talk about right off the top. Dogs rolling. Dogs on top, quick and easy, 49-3. It was slow at the beginning, only one touchdown in the first quarter, but then we scored 3 touchdowns in the second quarter, allowing Oregon a field goal, and that's the only time they would score in this game. And at that point, it's 28-3 going into the half, and the Dogs kept rolling. 2 more touchdowns in the third quarter and another in the fourth. The amazing thing in this one, 49-3, Georgia ran the ball little. Not saying that we didn't run the ball. We did. Because in the end, we touched the ball 25 times, carrying it. 4 touchdowns. That's the crazy thing. Most of our yardage and most of what Georgia did in this game, it came through the air. Stetson Bennett alone, 368 yards through the air by himself, 25 for 31, 2 touchdowns. Right behind him, Carson Beck, getting those second duties. Coming in 5 for 6, 71 yards, also had a touchdown on the night. 439 yards go through the air, 30 for 37. Only 7 incompletions for Georgia's quarterbacks in this game, throwing for almost 450 yards in this game. We only rushed the ball 132 yards on 25 carries. 4 tutties, though. 4 coming on the ground. 3 through the air. So, kind of hard to believe that Georgia, we've talked about this year in and year out. When will Georgia start to join the air game? And they did that in this. We're going to talk about the keys that I said that it was going to take to win this game here in just a minute once we jump to it. And you'll see that one of those was one that I said, hey, we've got to stick to our identity, running the ball. We didn't really have to in this game. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's run through some of the big stuff in the game. Your big guys on the ground. Kendall Milton, rolling. He was the leader. The leading rusher for Georgia in this game only had 50 yards. He had a touchdown, only 50 yards on 8 carries. And his longest one there was like 12 yards, something like that. John Edwards, he's the guy that I've been harping on the past couple of years, and I think he's going to be a big dog this year, no pun intended. 4 carries, 24 yards. He's your second rusher right there. Right behind him, Kenny Mack with 5 at 18. He also had a touchdown. Ladd with a couple ends around. 2 touches, 16 yards, and a touchdown. Branson Robinson also got in there. Dude's thighs are bigger than my head. It's nuts. And I got a big old head. Receiving, Kenny Mack led that as well. 117 yards on 9 touches. No touchdowns there. Ladd, though, with a touchdown on that little scramble around by Stetson, looking like he's trying to be a Johnny Manziel for Georgia. We don't have it often. Stetson pulled the Bo Nix. We knew who the quarterback was going to be for Oregon. Kirby told you that beforehand. I'm fairly certain all of us as Georgia fans knew that as well. And he pulls a Bo Nix. He's running around. I'll be honest with you. I was like, he's done. This is most of the time when Stetson lays down, but just at the last minute, you see his head raise up, and he looks across, and look who's standing in the corner. Ladd's back there. Now, I really thought that ball may have been going to Darnell Washington coming across the side because you kind of see him cut across. Here comes the pass. Goes right by him, and whoop, Ladd standing there wide open for a touchdown. Kearis Jackson also getting 3 touches on this one, 45. A.D. Mitchell with another touchdown, coming back 65 yards on 4 touches this game. Huge game. Georgia's first 7 possessions of the game offensively, they scored. And this is how it went. The first 4 ended up being less than 10 yards, and all of which, with exception to 1, are touchdown runs. 3 rushes and 1 touchdown pass. This is coming from 85 yards, 92 yards, 56 yards, 75 yards. The next 3 are all 12 yards or more in the end on a 12-yard touchdown rush. 2 18-yard passing touchdowns. But they go like this: 64-yard, 75-yard, 89-yard. It's not like Georgia was getting the best field position when they came into this game. Georgia drove the field time and time again. 85-yard, 92-yard, 75, 89, 75. Those are the longs. The shorts are 56 and 64. So every single time Georgia was traveling beyond the 50-yard line to drive down and score. Only one time, the closest being 56 yards, was the closest Georgia was to having good field position, which I guess anytime you say that you're on the 44-yard line, that's a pretty good spot to be. But time and time again, Georgia was further back than that. They had to drive the field to score. So this wasn't a situation where Georgia's getting the ball in plus territory standing at the 20-yard line of Oregon on a turnover or something like that. This happened time and time again. Georgia was getting pushed back. By the way, Georgia punted the ball 1 time. We knew that Jake Camarda was going out. We didn't talk about this too much coming into the season. I may have briefly, broached the topic once, knowing that, hey, we've got a great kicker that's no longer here. What are we going to see? Well, we didn't have to see him at all. We saw him once. We're going to see him more throughout the season, obviously. This isn't going to be something that Georgia doesn't have to punt every single game. You're going to face teams that have a better defense. But we only had to see him 1 time in this game, and it was late. I think it was 4th quarter, 10 minutes left, maybe. Might have been the 3rd quarter, but we didn't punt the ball but 1 time in this game. And that blows my mind. That's how well Georgia's offense worked in this game. And that's also how well Georgia's defense held Oregon off the board the entire night. And to be honest with you, they may not have gotten that field goal had it not been for a controversial call there. And we're not gonna argue about referees in this game because that has nothing to do with this game. But I didn't know that you couldn't tackle a guy a little bit heavy and there'd be a flag. But I digress. We'll move on from that because otherwise, who knows? That this could have been a shutout. Is what it is. But here's kind of what we were getting into. Georgia's O-line, Georgia's defensive line and defense in general against Oregon's offense. Oregon may very well have one of the top offenses or offensive lines, at least in the country, coming in. Right now, it looks like they may just be the top offensive line in the Pac-12, and I don't know if that's really an impressive thing or not, considering what Georgia's defense was to do. Everybody has been harping week in and week out. Oh, Georgia lost so much on defense. They're not going to be good at defense anymore. Yeah, they'll still be good, but probably not anywhere. Bye. We don't need to hear that anymore because Georgia came in here and they proved to you my defense may not have had the same exact guys that I had last year, but guess what? I still got dudes. I got dudes left and right, and I told you guys before the season even started, Georgia has the guys still on the field. Kirby Smart, week in and week out, playing these games. He is putting guys in every single day. In this game, 51 players played at least 11 snaps. 51 guys got on the field for at least 11 snaps for Georgia. That's 23 offensively and 28 guys on defense. Think about that for a minute. You got 11 guys playing both sides. That's 22 guys if you put in a whole new personnel on both sides. And you're talking 51 players here. 23 offensive guys got on the field for more than 11 snaps, 11 or more. 28 on defense. I've said this for the past 4 weeks, and I even said it last season. Kirby Smart puts the dudes on the field, gets you that experience because he knows when it comes to it, you have to have not only experience, but meaningful experience against a guy or a team in what the likes of an 11 ranked Oregon is. Because coming into this game, Georgia didn't rank Oregon 11. Whoever it is that ranked Oregon 11, they are the ones who have to answer for that, not Georgia. Georgia just got out there and did their job and showed them why we're ranked number 3 and why we should probably be ranked a little bit higher. Now, right now, I don't care. I'm not too worried if Georgia's the number 1 team in the country. I don't really care for Georgia to necessarily be ranked number 1 team in the country at this moment. Not saying that they don't deserve it. That's not at all what I mean by that when I say that. So let me preface by saying that starting off. But I don't mind that Georgia's the number 3 team in the country. Don't mind that at all. Because all that does is, again, it makes you work harder. It helps you to understand, hey, I don't have to be the top dog right now. At the end of the season, that's when it matters the most. That's when we'll talk about, hey, it's not a bad time to be ranked number 1 in the country and play the number 4 team. In the end, it has not mattered for Georgia. Georgia has not been the number 1 team in the country coming into these games playing the national championship. Georgia this past season was not the number 1 team in the country, but in the end, they were the number 1 team in the country. That's when it matters the most. Georgia's O-line, will it be big this year? Absolutely. Georgia did a very good job at protecting Stetson Bennett in this game. And even in times where he was a little bit under duress, we didn't have a lot of penalties in this game. Georgia didn't do a bad job when he was in duress, where the offensive line most of the time ends up holding a guy. They didn't do that. Georgia did a very good job at being able to hold back from that and not having any worries when it came down to that. I was proud, though, of a couple of other things here, and that was Kenny Mack. We talked about that. I said that he would be on breakout notice coming into this game. Kenny Mack, again, did a really good job running the ball. 5 touches, 18 yards, had a touchdown on the ground. But then what we talked about coming into this game and a couple of weeks ago as well, Kenny Mack is just like James Cook as far as he is very good at catching the ball out of the backfield, and that helps a lot. Having a running back not only that can run, not only that can help to pass block in the backfield there, but also being able to get out wide and catch a ball or run and make something happen. He led for the receivers. 9 touches, 117 yards. Didn't score. Touchdown, did have a big 38-yard breakout. But 117 yards, he led the receiving category for Georgia in this game. Lab McConkey right behind it, 5 touches, 73 yards and a touchdown. A.D. Mitchell, 4, 65, and a touchdown as well. So that's kind of your leaders as far as this goes on offense. Looking over at the defensive side, Nolan Smith, we knew that he knows that the Dawgs standard is what it is. Georgia has a standard now, and that is to be one of the best, if not the best, defense in the country. They showed that very well coming into this game. When you start to look at some of the other games that were going on around the country, Georgia's defense stood up and gets to prove and say, hey, all of you naysayers, all of you guys that are out there that are saying Georgia's defense, they're going to fall off. It's not going to be that good this year. They're going to lose a few guys here and there. They've already lost quite a few guys, going to the draft and to the transfer. Let's see what happens with Georgia. Georgia's defense is back, baby. There ain't no drop-off here. It's exactly what it was last year. Different guys. It's not a rebuild. It's a reload. We talked about that coming into this game, and we're going to talk about it as we continue throughout the season. Now the narrative is going to switch, and I almost tweeted this yesterday. I was like, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to say this on the show. The narrative is going to change. It's no longer going to be that, Georgia's defense is just really stout. Georgia's so much better than Oregon is, which is what the conversation should be. 49-3, that's the conversation that should be. Instead, it's going to be, Oregon wasn't truly an 11-ranked team. We didn't get to see anything before they came into the season. That's just where they put them at 11. No, that's the narrative that you're going to hear. Oregon's really not that good. Georgia's good. We'll see what it's like when they play real competition. But yeah, why? Why rank anybody 11th? Why put a rank on anybody other than just to have a conversation before the season starts? Let's everybody not have a rank starting the season if that's the way it's going to be. Every time a team comes in and dominates somebody, you decide to say, okay, they're not that good. That team is not 11 ranked worthy. And I've tweeted this yesterday. Below the top 5, we haven't seen Clemson play yet. We're not 100% how Ohio State and Notre Dame are just yet. We're going to see as the season goes on, but just like the start of last year, Georgia Clemson 10-7 or 10-3, excuse me. Really close game. Not a high scoring game. Very big defensive game. But from that point on, Georgia's offense showed up and showed out and scored a lot of points. In the end, averaging almost 39 points a game. So that first game, I'm not going to say necessarily is the end-all, be-all, because I do think that this proves that Georgia's offense is out for blood, as well as the defense, trying to prove that the narrative is Georgia's defense is not taking a step back. We're right where we were last year, and we're going to stay there just with new guys. That hopefully is going to be that. But all of this about, these teams, I really, below the top five, I don't know who's good. I don't know who can compare to be in that. And some news that broke this week that we didn't talk about off the top, but we're going to talk about it here, is they are moving and pushing for that 2026 12-team playoff. I'm surprised that it was 12 and not 8. I could have gone for double as opposed to triple. But this kind of shows you, all right, you had a number 3 team just play a number 11 team. Granted, it's the first week of the season. I get it. It can be completely different at the end between injuries, and then teams have been through the gauntlet and they understand what it takes to win, and this is a big moment. But you might have just gotten a little bit of insight to what that can look like coming up in the future. We're going to see. We're going to see how that shakes out when we get to it. But I don't want to count out Ohio State. I don't want to count out Notre Dame just yet. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more coming up as we run around the rest of the country and look at some of those games. But Dan Lanning, the last thing on the breakdown of it from last week. Dan Lanning, he knows this Georgia defense. Watch for some of this trickery. And we didn't really get a lot of that. Bo Nix came in as the quarterback. Kirby told you beforehand they hadn't announced it, but Kirby knew who the quarterback was going to be. And sure enough, Georgia took care of Bo Nix. He is 0-4 against Georgia in his career. 0-4. And we kind of knew that pretty quickly that's the way it was going to be. Georgia was able to get to him quite a few times in this game. In the end, I think Georgia ended up with – no, we actually didn't have any sacks in this game. We had 3 tackles for a loss, and we had a few quarterback hurries in this game where we were really getting to him and kind of affecting it. But in the end, I wanted to look and see. I didn't see if they didn't sack us either. So on both sides of the ball, offensive line for Georgia, we were able to hold them back, but they actually held us off of Bo Nix quite a bit too. Doesn't mean we didn't get in the backfield and we didn't affect the quarterback here and there. So, but 0-4, Bo Nix wasn't able to do anything offensively against us. But Dan Lanning, he's still got a lot of work to do there for Oregon as well, for their defense. Does he have a good O-line? Yeah, I think he's got a pretty good O-line. It's the best O-line that Bo Nix is going to get to play behind in his career so far. Now, he had bits and pieces when he played for Auburn, but this will be the best O-line that he gets to play for, and he gets to play against Pac-12 competition now that he's done with Georgia. Now he gets to kind of go back, and Oregon could still turn out to be one of the best teams in the Pac-12. USC could rise up and be that team. We're going to see. That doesn't necessarily matter as much for us as Georgia fans, but we want to see our competition that we do play. It's a good thing when the competition that you play at the beginning of the season, in case of Oregon, 49-3, if they end up a 10-2 season, by the end of the season, 10-2 team, that's good for Georgia. That looks better on your resume. That looks better on your schedule for a team that you dominated, again, at the beginning of the season, coming to the end, a 10-win season. Again, it's the Pac-12. Take that with a grain of salt. Let's get to the keys of the game that we talked about coming into this one. Starting off offensively. Can't turn the ball over. Stetson Bennett, great job. There were only a couple of times where you got a little bit curious as to why he was throwing. One of those was that big scramble where it kind of looked like Bo Nix or Johnny Manziel. He kind of had that, and you got a little nervous there. But again, he made the right play. A lot of people, I think, thought that was a throwaway. To me, again, you kind of see his eyes rise up right there at the end, and he sees a guy, and he goes for it. Now, it could have gone completely wrong if a guy was there, but he went for it and it worked out. No turnovers. We did great on that. Converting third downs. This was a big one. Late into the game, Georgia had not failed to complete a third down in this game. And that was one thing that I wanted to see. Was Georgia going to be successful at it? And we were. For a long time coming into this game, this was one of the things I kept looking at was, can Georgia continue to be good as far as third down efficiency? 9 for 10. 9 for 10 offensively. Georgia, 90%. We talked about this coming into it. You got to be good converting third downs offensively because, again, you don't want to give that other team a lot of time back there being able to keep your defense on the field because it gets you gassed. Georgia's offense did a great job. And that 9 for 10, if I remember correctly, it was the fourth quarter before Georgia finally was not able to complete a third down play Again, we only got into a third down situation 10 times in this game. On the other side, Oregon got into it 15 times. 15 times in the game. But Georgia dominated, only holding the ball for about 2 minutes more than they did. So we did that job. No turnovers, ching. Converting third downs, cha-ching. I need a little sound bar here. And sticking to our identity. I talked about that a little bit off the top. And we really did. We ran the ball when we needed to. But, I mean, my goodness, when the air game's working the way that it was, it works. Ty Munkin said this just a couple of weeks ago. He gets paid to score. He gets paid to score. He doesn't get paid to win necessarily, but he gets paid to score, and score he did. 49 points, and most all of that, I'm going to say most all of that came through the air. The yardage came through the air. We had one more touchdown than we did on the ground than we did through the air. 4 and 3. He got paid to score, and he's getting paid because of this one. So, ching, ching, ching. Stick to the identity. We call it a push. Defensively, we got to affect the quarterback also while containing him. I think we did a great job as far as containing him. He never really got too loose. There were a couple of situations where he was able to run the ball a little bit on us, but nothing majorly effective. Locking down in the secondary, we did that. How about it, Malachi Starks? What a pick. That's one of the best interceptions I think I've ever seen in a game. For a kid who is a true freshman, I was telling somebody about this earlier, a kid who is a true freshman, not only to have the wherewithal to turn around and look for the ball. To turn around. You think about Tyson Campbell a few years ago. Every time, and I'm not trying to knock on him, but every time a pass came his direction and he had his back turned to the ball, I knew a flag was coming. Every single time, because he never could figure out, I got to turn around and find the ball and make a play on the ball instead of the player. And as soon as this ball went up, I was like, let's see. And when he turned around, I was like, wait a minute. And the interception, I mean, just immaculate. What a great interception by him. He's got a huge career coming for him here at Georgia. The fact that was in the first quarter, may have been the second. But anyway, early in the game, and he is a true freshman in the game, again, speaks to what Kirby is doing there at Georgia with its defense, putting multiple guys in a game. But he comes up, and Kirby even said that he was one of the guys who throughout camp looked really good, looked very good, and has impressed him and continues to impress him moving forward. Great interception, but to see him turn around on that ball and make a play on the ball, that's just great to see. Again, awesome to see. And then finally, getting off the field on third down. We did pretty good. We held them less than 50% at 7 for 15. Now, fourth down, they went for it 3 times, got it twice. So it's kind of a tit for tat, almost a push on that for 50%. As far as when you add the third down and fourth down to it, because they went for it for a few times. But end of the game, 90 seconds left. Georgia's got the opportunity to lock them down and keep them from getting in the end zone, at least for a touchdown. They did that. They held the ground with the goal line stand there at the end of the game to end up putting it away. Again, Georgia 49-3. So on defense, boom, we did our job. Affected the quarterback while containing him. Had to lock down secondary for sure, and getting off the field on third down, Georgia did that. Georgia, coming into this game, minus 17. I picked it at 31-10. Didn't end up where I wanted it to, but I'll tell you what, ended up a whole lot better than I thought it would. We talked about this coming into this game of the preview. I told you, I said 31-10 is kind of where I see this. Take that 17. Again, we're going to get to the picks here in just a minute. Take that 17, but I really would be surprised if this is a game where Georgia just walks away with it. But they did. Georgia walked away with it. And I also said that if Georgia walks away with it, hey, I'm going to be happy there too, because that's exciting. That's exciting if Georgia can walk away with a game right here. Didn't expect that to happen, but it did. And I'm very glad that it ended up that way. We'll take it. That's all we're going to say about it. 31-10 was the pick. The finals 49-3. Which is excited and proud about that coming into it. All right, so it's game week. That's how it ends up. Did a poll on Twitter earlier today. Just a real quick one right before we jumped on here. I wanted to see who you guys had as your Georgia-Oregon game MVP. These are the 4 guys that I put up. Stetson Bennett offensively, Kenny Mack offensively as well. We talked about it just a minute ago, what it was that Kenny Mack did as well as what it was that Stetson Bennett did in this game. Stetson Bennett 25 for 31, 368 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kenny Mack runs the ball 5 times, 18 yards with a touchdown, but also leading receiver, 9 catches, 117 yards. Did not find the end zone through the air, but those are the 2 guys. Most of the time that's going to go to Stetson when it comes to passing the ball as well and as effectively as he did with this. Defensively, I put 2 guys up there. That's Malachi Starks as well as Christopher Smith. I put it on there as Chris Smith. And I put this poll together, so I'm going to kind of break it up, mainly because that's how it ended up in the poll anyways, broken up. But Malachi Starks, first of all, gets the pick, which was unreal. But he also leads the team as a true freshman, the 8 total tackles, 5 of those being solo. Right behind him was Christopher Smith with 6, and 3 of those being total or solos. One of them tackled for a loss. And both of these guys in this game had interceptions. Christopher Smith had the interception, returned it for 22 yards, and if he cuts outside instead of going in the middle of the field, he may have had a pick 6 on that one, and it would have been a long one, like a 72-yarder, I think, something like that. But then obviously the incredible snag by Malachi Starks there, or Malachi Starks. Sorry, I'm gonna get that kind of mixed up here and there as we go through it. But in the end, you guys picked Stetson Bennett 88.9%, but I'm gonna break it in 2 pieces because nobody voted Kenny Mack. Nobody voted Chris. Again, it was like a 2-hour poll. It was really quick. But Stetson Bennett, overall game MVP, but on defense, Malachi Starks as the true freshman. That was exciting and fun to see. See if I can pull up my other thing. Oh, yeah. We wanted to look at games around the country because we had some other really big games around the country, too, that I was, to be honest with you, I was kind of surprised by a few of these. But I was also excited to see what the future holds for a couple of these games as well. Sorry, I keep scratching my nose. It feels like I got something going on here for you guys watching on YouTube. We do have a fun one coming up tonight, Sunday night. You do get to watch LSU and FSU playing. That one's in New Orleans, so that might be a fun one. 2 reasons. One, we kind of get a little bit of an insight of, is LSU with Brian Kelly, is he going to be all that, or maybe not? But we also get to see, hey, can FSU actually prove that they are, worthy of a big game? Are they worthy of being a better team? Right now, the line has flipped. Hadn't flipped, but it's moved a little bit closer LSU's way to 4 instead of, I think it was like 3.5. So the top 25 matchups, we were talking, I think, a little bit about West Virginia Pitt on Thursday's episode. Well, technically Friday's when we were recording Thursday night. Good game. Pitt ends up winning that one. Friday's game, Michigan State, Western Michigan, nothing big there. Then we get to the Saturday matchups. Texas A&M was really slow starting off against Sam Houston. I was kind of expecting them to really get rocking and rolling. They end up winning 31-0, which if you look at that, not watching the game, it's like, okay, they handled their business. Most people are going to think just like Alabama ends up beating Utah State 55-0. I think that's what most people expect a game like that to be, and it wasn't. It was very, very slow. It's kind of surprising at just how slow that game was. But A&M did end up holding on. Their defense looks really good. The offense, to me, just really isn't all that high-powered like I think a lot of us thought it might be. Haynes King, a couple of interceptions in there. That could be part of that as well. But 31-0. Michigan, they rolled on 51-7. This was a big one. If you got to watch a game and you wanted to watch a matchup, it was NC State and East Carolina. What a game that was. Ends 21-20. Right at the end of the game, NC State ends up holding on to win that one. Oklahoma, let me go back to my screen because it completely blanked off here. Let's see, Oklahoma ends up beating UTEP 45-13. Another good one, and this is one of the picks too that we're going to put up here in just a minute that I went through, was Arkansas and Cincinnati. Cincinnati obviously coming off that playoff berth from last season. Playing Arkansas. Arkansas gets the home favorite in this one. 19 versus 23, a top 25 matchup. Arkansas holds on to win it 31-24. Good game there. Houston and UTSA. This was a surprising one as well. Houston, a 24th ranked team coming in this game. Had to go to 3 overtimes to beat UTSA 37-35 on the 2-point conversions there in that third overtime that you got to run. The overtime rule, it seemed like it used to be the first overtime was normal, second was normal. Third one you had to go for 2 if you got a touchdown, and then the fourth and beyond I thought was when you start doing the 2-point conversion. But I guess now it's the first one is normal, the second one you got to go for 2, and then the third from that point on you just go for consecutive 2-point conversions. But anyway, Ole Miss handles Troy 28-10. Florida, Utah, that was another really big one. Going to talk about the picks in a minute. Utah looked really good in this game, but I will just turn it down a little bit if you guys want. I'll give Florida a little bit of credit here. I'm not going to say that Utah is not a good team, but Florida actually did look pretty good in this one. Anthony Richardson looked pretty good. They got the job done at home in the Swamp, 29-26. 3 points was headed Utah's way, and that's just because they were in the Swamp. Otherwise, that would have been about 6 to almost a touchdown favorite for Utah. But it ends up 29-26. Florida gets the win at home. Good job. Kentucky, Miami, Ohio, easy 37-13. Some of these games were a little bit closer, like I said, than I thought. And then you had Notre Dame and Ohio State, 21-10. Ohio State, that's 10-7 going into the half. Notre Dame has the lead, and then Notre Dame offensively could not get anything going. This was a good defensive battle, though. Again, this is why I say the teams 5 and below. I really don't know who is ranked where. We're going to see what Clemson does with Georgia Tech on Monday night, but both of these teams have really good defenses. Everybody that's saying Ohio State has the best defense in the country, I don't believe that, but they still have time to prove you wrong. Just like I was saying off the top here, Georgia, Clemson starting last season, that's a 10-3 game. So it's a defensive matchup, whereas from that point on, Georgia's offense took off. And again, that's the reason we end up with almost 39, 38, I can't remember the exact number, 38, 39 points a game last season. Georgia's offense came alive after that and looked really good. That could still happen for these two teams. You may have just had a really good defensive matchup that came into this game, but Notre Dame's got a lot to do offensively to score. So does Ohio State. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be. This shouldn't have been a high-scoring game. It's two good defenses matching up, two top 5 teams in the country. Again, I still think at this point right now we're going to see some things could change, but Notre Dame I still believe is a top 5 team in the country, mainly because 6 and below, I just really don't know what to think. I don't know what to think about who would be a dark horse coming up. Right now I still think it's Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson. Even though that's the top 4 preseason picks, that's still the teams that I think are going to be there at the end. I think Clemson is going to bounce back this year. I don't think they're going to lose in the ACC. I think Ohio State's still going to be good, even though this is a close game against Notre Dame. Notre Dame may be that team that's got one loss, and it was the beginning of the season coming into this. Again, it's going to hurt them that they're not in a conference, but that is what it is. Alabama's going to run through their schedule. Georgia should, knock on wood, should run through their schedule. So it's going to be fun to see what this season has to hold. My picks, I'm going to bring them up. Well, I'm not going to bring them up, actually, because I don't have them pulled up in the screen here for you guys on YouTube. Unless I can get it pulled up really, really quickly. Let's see how quickly I can get it pulled up here, guys. This is going to show you just how fast I can work on something. And it may not be fast at all. I know this is just dead space. It's raining outside. I was kind of curious there for a second. All right, let's see how fast I can do this for you guys that are watching on YouTube. This will show time on that. 33. This will show just how fast maybe I can put something together. I'll be impressed if I can do this quickly, though. And you guys that are watching on, you're like, God, I really do not. I don't have a care in the world about how fast you can do something or how fast you can't. But listen, I'm gonna work on myself here, guys. You gotta give me a little credit. Give me a little credit where credit is due sometimes. Hopefully it doesn't look too bad though. That's the picks on the week. That's what I did. Georgia, Oregon. It does kind of look a little grainy looking at it here. Anyway, Georgia, Oregon. I had Georgia with the win, -17. Both of those hit. Bam, bam. Utah, Florida. I had Utah beating Florida -3. I thought they beat them by more. Florida ends up winning it, and obviously that 3 no longer matters when Florida wins. So boom, boom. So technically 2-2 through that. Cincinnati at Arkansas. I had Arkansas winning that one by 6.5. They do win it by a touchdown. Boom, boom. There's 2 wins. Ohio State I had winning it. I had Notre Dame covering the 17, and wouldn't you know, both of which hit. So technically I had a 6-2 night. 2, 4, 6, and 2. That's a pretty good night, but in the end it doesn't matter because Georgia won, and that's all that matters. That's all we care about. We're excited about it. Glad to have you guys back here with us, and looking forward to next week. Up next, unfortunately, we got Samford. I'm not going to say unfortunately. You know, we got a game where we kind of get to take a break, a little bit of a breather. And, I mean, really coming into this game after this, it already felt like a little bit of a break anyway. When you win 49-3 against a top 15 team, top 11 team, considering they were 11th. I mean, what else can you say? When you beat the 11th team in the country 49-3, now we got to go play Samford. I don't know. But anyway, then we get to at least look forward to South Carolina following that up. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Almost took my mic out there. So let's get ready to wrap it up here. All right, I don't think you can hear anything. Nope. Sorry, YouTube. Listen, it's the first time back here on YouTube. We're going to get this thing figured out, okay? Again, glad to have you guys here. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, @DawgTalk20. YouTube, we're back up and running. Hit subscribe. Make sure you guys like this video. I would appreciate that. 5-star review wherever you're listening on podcast. Again, we're up on Instagram as well. Appreciate all of you guys listening. I look forward. I will check in with you guys come Thursday where we will preview that Samford game coming up. Go Dogs.